What's up, everybody? How you doing?
Hello.
I'm Ben, and I want to introduce you to the panel first off. We're going to talk about Bioshock. Pretty cool. We're not associated with Bioshock. Sorry if you thought that's what you were getting into. This is just a fan panel. We want to talk about the series and our love of it and our experiences, and hopefully we'll be able to have a couple minutes to hear from some of you all as well at the end. But first, let's start down all around the end. Introduce yourself just briefly.
All right, my name's Phil. I'm a senior editor with handsomephantom.com, and Bioshock just means a lot to me, so we're happy to be here to talk about it.
Yeah, I'm Brandon Duncan, one of the podcasters on the network, and I do some written content as well. And Bioshock has been one of my favorite games ever, so definitely something I like. Yeah.
My name is Dustin Furman. I'm a producer here at Handsome Phantom, and I'm also an editor for Colin's Last Stand. And Bioshock is top 3 material, for sure.
My name is Adam Bankers, and I'm a writer for IGN. Oh, thank you. Appreciate it. And also, it's my birthday today. So.
Hey, happy birthday! Very nice. I was gonna mention that, and you took the wind out of it.
Oh, sorry.
Wow.
My bad.
So he was going to do something nice.
I'm Ben Smith. I'm the editor-in-chief at handsomephantom.com, and I love Bioshock as well. And I only recently discovered I never finished Bioshock 2, even though I thought I did. Yeah. So that's a revelation I'm coming to terms with. But I have finished it now. So, like I said, it's a fan panel. We're just talking about some stuff. There's definitely going to be some spoilers here. We're talking about an older game, but we're talking about all of them. So if you're really, really, really averse to spoilers, you should probably head on out. I guess. But I'm hoping that's not the case. The other thing, most of us here are from Handsome Phantom. If you follow Handsome Phantom on Twitter during this panel, we'll do like a quick at the end. I'll announce some names. I got 26 games to give out for every system. Most of them are within the last 2 years that are coming out. No big AAA blockbusters or anything, but some games that hopefully you'll enjoy. We'll get that all coordinated. If you like Handsome Phantom, you can unlike it after you win or don't win. I don't.
Please don't.
We just want that temporary boost.
Yeah, right.
Get that going for us. All right. So the year is 2007. Bioshock, the first Bioshock, comes out. And it is set in 1960. It's made by Irrational Games, and it tells the story of Jack, whose plane is going to be shot, crash into the ocean. He's going to find his way to Rapture, the underwater city. So I would just want to first go through the panel, and each of you tell a little bit about your first. There's nothing quite like your first Bioshock moment. So what was everybody's first Bioshock moment, whether it was the lead up to it, the midnight release, the first time you beat it, whatever it was, your quintessential Bioshock 1 moment.
Cool. So here.
You want to go, Phil?
Yeah, I'll start. So I think the reason I wanted to be on this panel is Bioshock is the very first game I can really remember actually completing and finishing. When the 360 was new, I was really early in adulthood. I could buy a lot more than I could before that point in life. So I was buying so many games and just sort of playing them for a brief amount of time and then letting them go. So when I sat down and played Bioshock, I was so drawn into the story, into the characters in that world, that I never wanted to leave. So I think that was the first time I can really remember actually seeing a game through to the end and realizing that I needed to probably stop buying so much and just playing more.
You're telling me the first game you ever beat in your life was Bioshock?
I mean, we're talking Super Nintendo. I played through Super Mario World. Right. I played through, but in this world we live in now, in modern gaming, yeah, it's the first modern game that I beat.
Nice.
Cool. Yeah, so I guess I was probably more of a late adopter on it because I got it when it was in the collection on 360. I've actually bought the collection twice. But early on in my gaming career, I was mostly a first-person shooter guy. And I played a lot of Call of Duty, and story-driven stuff was kind of on the back burner in my early years. And Bioshock was one of the games that really kind of launched more narrative, world-driven story games for me because, as we all know, the story is so amazing. And that mixed with the first-person combat really kind of helped me grow as someone who enjoys this medium. And that's something that I will never forget. So I guess that's like one of my first memories with Bioshock is that it really helped mold me. So
for me, I think my first memory, I'm moderating, but I'm also going to participate because I can't not talk about Bioshock. My first memory is my buddy Brandon introduced, not this Brandon, another
Not me.
Brandon, was like, "Oh yeah, Bioshock's really good, right?" I'm like, "I don't know what that is," and it's probably late 2007, early 2008 at this point. He said, "Yeah, like, how did you miss it?" I'm like, "I don't know, it didn't occur to me." So, like 5 other games he had loaned me before and I hated and didn't play, I assumed this one would be the same way, and he loaned it to me and I played it and I absolutely loved it, and I started taking his recommendations more seriously. And of course, the love has just stuck with us, or with me, ever since playing that first game all through the series.
I know for me, when I first picked it up, I started playing it and it freaked me out too much. And so it was like kind of like all right, I'm gonna
only 15.
Yeah. So
What about it specifically?
well, there's a specific moment where there's a splicer that is there's like some water on the ground. He goes into like a closet type thing and then jumps out at you later.
Yeah.
And that was kind of when I turned it off at that point. But no,
Super scary.
I muscled up. I just made sure my parents was home. We were good. So,
yeah, right.
No,
This was last week, right?
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah, getting ready for the show. Made sure that, yeah.
I think what was so special for me at the time was that Bioshock showed me that like games are political, but not necessarily in the way that a lot of the major discourse is, whether or not like, obviously there's a big controversy around whether or not games should be political. And I always say, just look at Bioshock as a game that does it right.
Very good. Yeah, back in 2007, it was a time before working in the industry and stuff. I was able to kind of go dark on games, which is not really possible anymore. But I just remember I love the ocean and I love the whole atmosphere of it, and I tried to stay pretty dark on the game. But once I started playing, I just will always remember that first moment with the splicer and the stroller and the pistol and the stroller that just like took me back, because I'm like, what the heck is going on? What is going on in this world? Why is this person so crazy? What's happening? And it's one of those moments that even all these years later, I think back on it and still get a little bit of chills. And I'm like, oh my God, that's creepy.
Yeah.
And just throughout that whole game, that's what it's all about. It's about story and atmosphere and moments and those things that kind of unnerve you. And it seems like it's a place that people can live in, but it's just so kind of crazy, and it just builds upon and just really became something truly special to me.
I gotta just say real quick, cut in here. My phone just a minute ago and my watch were like blowing up. And
Mine too, yeah.
I'm like, is there an emergency at home? Is something going? No, you were just all following us on Twitter. So
Nice.
still
Very
happening,
nice.
by the way.
Very nice.
So,
Thank you.
Good job, everybody.
No, I'm just kidding.
All right, so I want to just get into some favorites. Like, we're going to talk a little bit about story. We're going to talk a little bit about gameplay. But like, what about the guns or the weapons in Bioshock? What about the plasmids? What's your favorite plasmid to use to spam all the time? I think those are really cool conversations. We can talk about the story, as well. But how do you interchange those? What makes them special to you?
Cool. Yeah, I can go for this. So something that I really found to be my playstyle in Bioshock 1 was the wrench combat. And I feel like that's just, if you don't, I mean, it makes sense to use a gun instead of a wrench against bad guys, right? Like, that makes sense. But if you get some of the upgrades to the plasmids, it gets really awesome. You can go camouflage when you're standing still. You got wrench jockey and stuff like that. So I think for me, just the wrench was super fun. Just running around the levels, collecting all the perks. I really ended up being more of a completionist on that one. I ended up getting the platinum because I played it on PS4 too. So, but yeah, it was a lot of fun. And the wrench and the combo with the plasmid shock and then the wrench hit gets him every time. So.
Somebody else?
Who's next?
What I think is interesting about these games and in modern gaming, I know everyone has their ideas of what they think about achievements and trophies, but I tend to find something that I like and I stick to it. I don't really play around with things, and I think that was one of the first times with a vast variety of weapons and with all the plasmids and with all the different combos you could do. I think working around achievements and things like that, you had to do certain things, with different plasmids maybe, or different combinations of stuff to actually get. You had to actually, do a lot of different things to actually earn those trophies, and I think that kind of just helped me get that. I really liked, I always liked shocking them. That's kind of my go-to. I'll throw a bolt at them and then kind of hit them with something on top of that. But I don't know if I have any favorites, to be honest with you. I just liked having that option and that variety, and I think this is the game that taught me that you don't have to just use the same weapon all the time or use the same abilities. You can actually play around with it and have fun with it.
Exactly what you just said is my same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are we talking just weapons or mechanics too?
Mechanics,
Everything.
weapons, I mean, the things that make the game tactile.
For me, I remember what was so unique, and I know it's not the first game to do this, but the morality decisions in the game on how that incorporated into gameplay, of course, with the little sisters, the choice on whether to save them or to kill them is a pretty heavy one.
Harvest.
Harvest,
We use the
right.
word harvest.
Right,
yeah.
right. But yeah, it's an interesting, I feel like that was kind of a newer thing for such a big AAA game with the multiple endings was neat. And, it really did, it was a conflict when you first play that part just because you have Tenenbaum who's saying like, no, that's a little girl, you can save her. And you have Atlas saying, there's too far gone. You might as well just take the atom. And that decision will follow you throughout the game.
Do you remember the first time? What you did the first time?
I
did-
always saved
I
the
saved.
little girl. Yeah, I always.
I have never
I don't know.
harvested a little sister.
That'd
I-
be painful.
I have no idea what happened.
Yeah.
I don't even
I
want
cannot do it.
Yeah. I always worry I'm going to accidentally walk up to it and hit the wrong button and then just have to load back up.
So when I was playing Minerva's Den, which we'll get to in a minute, I was under a time crunch and wanted to hurry up through it. And I've never harvested a little sister before until I was playing Minerva's Den. And I was like, this is taking a long time. I'm just going to
Oh no.
Oh no, Ben.
And I did.
Taking the shortcut.
It
This
wasn't
is-
fun. I didn't like that.
This is taking too long. Let's kill this child.
Yeah,
Is that what?
that was my thought.
Oh,
Levine's
yikes.
Yeah.
Yikes. What'd you spend it on?
Don't worry about it.
Yeah, no, I love I also came up, I recently, before Bioshock, finally played Half-Life 2 and got into all that, so the wrench kind of just felt like home, just playing with all that stuff, so that was a nice little transition. And then, yeah, kind of, just the way you could kind of play with the powers, even something as little as shooting lightning bolts into water and little stuff like that, and just exploring the environment, man, that's really what I remember Bioshock for. I love the combat and I love the things, but I just loved exploring every single corner. I loved finding all the audio logs and doing all that kind of stuff. And that's what really kind of made Bioshock special to me. Because the combat was fun. It was fun to just do crazy powers and do all that stuff. But Bioshock is just so much more. And just the sum of its parts just turns it into something fantastic.
I'm glad you mentioned the audio logs because that's a big thing.
Yeah.
I feel like now when other games do audio logs, I feel like a lot of times they do it wrong. And I always think, why don't they just do it like Bioshock?
Yeah, you have to go in a menu and you have
gotta
to pause
pause,
everything.
yeah.
And it ruins the whole flow of it. It's all about, it's got to keep everything going, feel natural. And
Yeah.
It just did it so well. And
Yeah, and I just feel like there's something actually so special about when you're exploring that really awesome environment and it encourages that to get the story because that's a lot of how some of the story is driven is through the audio logs. So it encourages that, and if you want more, there is more, and if you don't, you just do the objective. And yeah, the audio logs are really great.
good stuff.
I think the first time, this is a new topic, unless anybody else has anything. Okay. There's always been twists and turns in games, right? Back to NES, probably past that. There have been games that have led you to believe one thing in the story and then turned it on its head. But I think Bioshock in 2007-ish was probably the first game that really, kind of, for lack of a better word, shook me. At the end of the game, I'm playing and I don't expect what's about to come, and then that happens. Obviously, there's a lot of great story to it, but what were your emotions when that turn happens? Did you see it coming? Was there any possible way? Did you expect it? Did it make you feel bad? Make you feel good? I don't know. I just think that's a huge. When you're talking about Bioshock, you can't get away from the twist.
Yeah, I know. I didn't see it coming. I think it's just, and it's such a brilliant commentary on just games in general. You just follow the objective. You do what they say. You go this way. You do that. You do that. And it just doesn't really hit you because you're not thinking that. You're thinking so much more about where are all the secrets? Where is everything? What's happening? But you're not just really paying attention to what's happening right in front of your eyes. And that's sometimes the hardest thing to find. How many times have we put our phone somewhere, lost our keys, and it's been on the counter the whole time, and you're like, oh my God, how did I not see that?
Or in your hand.
Yeah, or in your hand, exactly. Or you're on the phone,
Yeah.
or you're on the phone, you're like, where did I put my phone? Oh, it's right there.
Yeah.
So I think that's just the brilliance of it, is just how it was right there the whole time, but you're just for me personally, maybe I'm an idiot, but I didn't see it.
Yeah. Honestly, it made me kind of feel like an idiot when I found out. I was like, how did I not? I didn't know either myself.
I just think he's being polite.
The would you kindly? I'm just like, oh well, he has a nice accent and he's just polite. Atlas is polite, right?
It's like ASMR for 2007.
No, but I heard in one of the original builds of the game they had a Southern accent, like Southern America accent, and it didn't work in testing. But anyway, yeah, no, I just yeah, I think it's really great. And,
I think,
That's pretty much it, yeah.
playing off what you're saying about the Would You Kindly is that I think what makes it so special, the twist, is how many layers it is. So you're coming up to the climax of the game. You're going to Ryan's office.
Right.
Of course, that's when this goes down. And then he's dead, and you're like, wow, that was crazy, obviously. But then it's the reveal of Frank Fontaine as Atlas. It's just like a two-punch right back to back. And then your entire mission at that point changes to your new enemy,
Yeah.
Frank Fontaine.
you killed Atlas. Ready for the next one.
Yeah.
Cool. Did anybody play the iOS game, by the way? The iOS Bioshock version?
It's
The
been removed.
iOS
Yeah,
file?
I know it's been
Sure.
removed.
And I went to
Anybody
look for it. I'm like, it's
here.
not there.
Anybody out there play the iOS version of Bioshock? One person.
One very
We got,
nice.
I don't know, 150,
He's-
200 people. We got
Hey.
people over
Two
there.
people,
Okay.
very nice. Shout out.
Interesting.
How about the
That's-
Vita version?
The Vita, yeah.
Don't stop it. Stop
Too
it.
soon.
It will always
Still
be
hope for
too
Switch,
soon.
everybody. There's hope for Switch.
I think we might have something there. We'll see. All right, let's we could obviously talk about BioShock, the first game, for not only the entire panel but the entire week probably, if we
Yeah.
really wanted to. But let's go ahead and move into BioShock 2 just to make sure we keep on track here and we have a little bit of time at the end. BioShock 2 came out in 2010. It's set 8 years after the original game. End shock twist. You're a big daddy this time. You're not gonna be just a regular dude running around shooting stuff. You're a tank, basically.
Yeah.
You're the thing you used to fear, and you're gonna go rescue Eleanor, who used to be your little sister before the leader of Rapture basically screwed you over. So I want to hear some people talk about just the difference in the things that are better about being a big daddy, the things that are worse about being a big daddy, the differences it made to the game, etc.
Yeah. So for me personally, I feel like I just mentioned how much I enjoyed the wrench combat, right? I feel like the drill, at least for me personally, didn't have quite as much sting, even if there were some perks that helped out for that. So I felt like that was lacking. I kind of wanted my wrench back instead of the drill, which seems kind of the opposite of what you would think. But Bioshock 2 also incorporated the double weapons. So you got the plasmids and the weapons, which was phenomenal. The first game wanted you to it to be like a chain thing, right? So you lightning or you fire and then you hit them or shoot them. And I get that, but it was just cool holding down the advanced incinerate and just blasting them with the shotgun. So yeah, I guess the drill didn't really do it for me as much as the wrench, but
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with that with the dual weapons. I thought it was just a nice little touch, and especially it just kind of reminded me of doing a little bit of the stuff in Skyrim when you just have
Yeah.
things going.
Yeah.
Just have different combos and just playing with it and just seeing the effects and everything. It just added to the atmosphere and just made it kind of fun. So I enjoyed
yeah,
it a lot.
yeah, and I feel like they definitely did polish the gun mechanics a little bit for the second one, so that kind of helped out.
I always felt like when I played Bioshock 2 when it came out, and then I hadn't played it again until we were prepping for this panel, is that I think that the combat is probably better than the first Bioshock, but the story doesn't quite hit the same way. And this game is interesting because it kind of is the black sheep of the Bioshock collection. It's not made by Irrational. It wasn't Ken Levine behind it, but I think what they were able to accomplish with the game, regardless, was still very good.
Right. No, I think it's super hard to compare to 1 and Infinite. Like, standing beside those other two games is very difficult, and I feel like that's why it gets a little bit of a bad rap sometimes, but 2 is still good.
Yeah,
It's just,
and I enjoyed it. I'm curious kind of what you guys think too, but I think part of the reason, I enjoyed it and I did have a good time with it, but definitely felt it. And I'm wondering if it's just because we were back in Rapture. I mean, it's still cool and it's a great place to explore, But I think the thing about Bioshock, like I said, is the new, the shocking, the what's this new crazy place to explore, which is why, I mean, I personally really enjoyed Infinite just because it was a completely new area that you were just kind of fish out of the water. Again, literally, you're in the sky now. And it's just,
You were literally a
You just
fish.
get pulled
Are you
right out of the
literally a
water.
fish.
That's right.
so yeah, so I don't know if you guys share those same feelings, but like it was cool and I like being back. I mean, Rapture's such a cool place, but it just, that was one of the things that just kind of stuck with me is it did feel kind of like coming back to a place instead of being in a whole brand new adventure, even though you were a big daddy, which was cool.
Bill?
Yeah, I just think that it was interesting at the time because, it came out years after the original. I hadn't played it in a few years. And I really loved it at the time, and I thought it felt, fresh and new and everything. But when you actually play them back to back, it definitely doesn't hold up to the first. I don't like being a big daddy as much necessarily in that aspect.
Wait, in what aspect?
In
What other
the
ways could you be a big
combat,
daddy?
Like, I'm talking about like for combat.
In real life.
No, I want to move forward. I'm ready to go past. Like I'm thinking now about Minerva's Den. Like I loved it in Minerva's Den.
Hold up.
Like
He asked you a question. Come on.
in that game, I didn't love it following playing as Jack. I like playing as Jack more.
I get it.
And then I liked playing as a Big Daddy in Minerva's Den more. And when you play them like consecutively, it's just kind of sandwiched between two far superior experiences.
There's something different there for sure. Speaking of Minerva's Den, let's keep moving so we can keep on schedule here. Minerva's Den, probably considered by many one of the best DLCs for a single-player game ever. Of course, we had some other DLC for both Bioshock 2 and Bioshock Infinite. We're not going to go into that, I don't think, right now. We're just going to do story DLC. But Phil, you said something to me earlier today that was really interesting about playing as Subject Sigma in Minerva's Den.
Yes.
And that was?
Well, let's see. I said a lot of things. I think the interesting thing about playing in Minerva's Den, I think there was a lot of the human elements that were missing. You were a big daddy in 2, and you were kind of going through those motions. But I think in Minerva's Den, you actually humanized that character, and you realized that these aren't just monsters that are, these are actually, they were people at one point. Maybe they still are people. I don't know. Are they trying to get out? And I really think it just put that element to it that was missing from the main game. That's one of the things I said. I don't know if that's the thing you were looking
Yeah,
at.
that's the thing I was looking for.
Nice.
Yeah. I think the word you used was that it humanizes the Big Daddy.
It does, yeah.
And that's something you certainly do. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just a monster in
Right.
Bioshock 1, and you kind of feel like a monster in Bioshock 2, but then you're seeking after something noble
Right.
in Minerva's Den.
And it almost felt like it was put there to kind of correct some wrongs,
Yeah.
No, yeah, I definitely agree with that. I feel like it might be a little bit of bias because obviously I just said I like the first one better, but like the second game, I feel like the environments themselves were shaped in a different way, and they were very like horizontal. A lot of the levels had many like multiple 2-3 levels with some of the buildings, and I feel like in Minerva's Den it kind of brought it back to a slightly simpler level design, which I actually liked a little bit better because I feel like the rest of the game shines by itself. And maybe you guys think differently, but I feel like the level design itself was kind of more back to the original. And also the laser gun is awesome. I think it's really cool.
Yeah.
So
I was going to mention that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I was a big fan. Like, I liked the story, obviously, the twist and the human, and like making it more human and stuff. But I did enjoy. I liked the combat and the way they did make it. I mean, I really fell in love with the hacking and the turrets and the cameras and like all that stuff, and really kind of thinking about what you wanted to do. And it just added like a little bit more of a strategic aspect to it, which I enjoyed, and just kind of fell in love with all that stuff, and just watched my creations go to work. It was fun.
Yeah. Speaking of hacking, does anybody like the old Bioshock 1 hacking better with like the pipe puzzles? I like it better than the super simple one. I mean, it is simple. I agree. It's very simple, and it's probably better for most people. But I love the pipe puzzle. I think it's so much fun. I
like it in Infinite
so,
the best.
Yeah.
You just tell Elizabeth to do it.
Okay. Okay. All
We'll
right.
get there. We'll get there.
All right.
I want to hack anything. Get out of here.
So Minerva's Den is, like I said, it was highly critically acclaimed. It was a little shorter than a lot of people expected, but it kind of gave this rounding out to the story that we needed. And then comes, this is the one I want to spend the most time on. I
Yeah.
know Bioshock 1 is considered by many the greatest.
It is
That
not.
may be the case.
It is not.
In some people's minds.
Well,
But it's been talked to death, right?
Right.
Why are we even talking about Bioshock at this
There's
point?
tension amongst the panel
Wow.
There's
now.
tension among
wow.
Feel it. Oh,
Half the crowd, this half is like, all right. All right, see.
If you don't stay till the end, you can't possibly win
Oh,
the
no.
game. So, whatever. Bioshock Infinite comes out. I don't think I was expecting it. I certainly wasn't expecting it to go back to Irrational or to have Ken Levine heading it up. And it comes out, and okay, the setup is, in case you don't know. If you don't know, seriously, there's a lot of stuff you shouldn't hear right now. But,
Yeah, you're
Go
probably
play it.
very confused. It's okay.
So Booker DeWitt is the character, and he gets sent to Columbia. And Columbia is not Rapture, in case you couldn't figure that out by the name. It is a city in the sky. It is almost exactly the opposite setting as the first two Bioshock games. The first two, you're underwater. In Bioshock Infinite, you're literally the exact opposite in the sky. And you've been sent, and you don't know why at first. You figure it out a little bit as the time goes on. But you've been sent to get Elizabeth, who's been held there, and she's been held there for her entire life. Now, the one thing I want to start off with talking about, because I want to be able to say this, is just the first hour, 2 hours of Bioshock Infinite, when you're experiencing the world for the first time. Adam mentioned the music that's going on during that first part of that game.
Yeah,
the first time you get to use a skyhook, it just kind of makes me excited thinking about it.
I got pissed at them when they stopped singing God Only Knows. Like, I wanted to come back and
He wants
sing it
God,
more. I was
loved
just
it.
sitting there enjoying the show.
Infinite loop. That's what Phil wants.
Just keep it going.
Yeah.
They wouldn't come back.
Phil, I think that God Only Knows moment is like one of my all-time favorite moments in games. Period.
Absolutely.
Just because, like,
Yep.
obviously you're in a city in the sky. It's weird, of course. But, you have the context that it's like early 1900s, and then you're walking along and suddenly you hear the Beach Boys.
Right.
And
like,
that's the
familiar.
moment where it's like something's
weird.
very strange going on.
The music of tomorrow today.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I thought it's just, once again, that's why I do love Bioshock Infinite. And like you kind of mentioned before, Ben, about the music, like when you're in the church and Will the Circle Being Broken starts playing, like I still, once again, it's kind of like the stroller moment for me. It's just, I just remember standing in that church and hearing the echoes and the choir just singing that song, and it just put me at such peace. But I knew that it wasn't going to last very long. And that's what I loved about Infinite too. Because
What gave it away?
I don't know. History repeats itself.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's good. It's just so cool because in Bioshock you come to Rapture when it's destroyed, and you're like you're seeing the body after it was killed, whatever. And it's like one of those things where when you're in Infinite, there's still life going on. There's still things happening, and things are crazy. Things seem weird. They're off, like I said. But you do get to kind of see a little bit of what life was like before the craziness. And once again, it's just those little things where you're in this crazy place, but you hear familiar things and you see familiar things, and it just really adds to not only the world, but also kind of the uneasiness, because like you said, something's not right here. And I was like, I kind of wish it did, maybe. It's like sometimes when I'm watching Star Wars, I'm like, maybe Anakin will be good this time. I don't know.
Uh-oh.
Never happens.
The other half leave. No, just kidding.
I want to get back to the skyhooks for a minute.
The skyhook.
fine.
They're just really cool.
Yeah.
That's all I had to say.
Yeah, honestly, you literally like break people's necks with them. It's honestly pretty visceral.
Yeah. The skyhooks on the rails. and
Separate
everything.
their head from their neck.
Yeah.
With them.
Yeah.
But the visibility you have and the scenery that's there as you're flying through the sky that first time on a skyhook, like there's nothing like it. And that just really, I think, opens up Infinite and lets you kind of see the setting, lets you kind of understand what's going on.
Right.
Then you meet Elizabeth. And Elizabeth is like cool in 600 different ways, right? She's
Infinite ways.
infinite ways, actually.
Actually.
That's actually really dead on right there. So not only is Elizabeth just like a very strong female personality in a video game, which even now we don't have a lot of, but in 2013 it was even more rare. But she's like got special powers. She can create like tears in the world and bring other things into it. And I just want to ask, if you have one, of the things that Elizabeth can bring into the world and what they do for you, like what do you think is the coolest one?
Oof. I like, honestly, one of the first reveals I feel like is one of the best, because like the car trying to come through the tear, I feel like is really cool. And it's like 80s music in the background. I don't remember the song, but yeah, I just feel like that's probably the best moment. I feel like they framed it really well, but
I think
I'd
it's
have
a
to
fun way
agree.
to get health and things like that. It just kind of
Practice.
Hey, open that up. I need some health.
Yeah,
that's all Phil wants.
I agree.
I mean, that's,
So he did mention that he just made her do all the hacking.
so, yeah. I mean,
Did you play the game or did she?
if she, which part? This part?
That's good.
She played some of it later. We'll talk about it.
I have a different point about Elizabeth.
Yeah,
that
I was going to say anything about
really wanted to bring up.
Yeah.
What I love about her specifically is that obviously, like you said, she's super cool, a very likable character, but they really made a point to make her not annoying when you're playing the game.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you don't need to protect her. It's not like Resident Evil 4 or anything like that. You can, she not only is able to hold her own, but she actually helps you out. She throws you.
Most
out.
AI is not like that.
Right.
Even
Yeah.
in modern games.
Right, yeah, and you can see. I don't know when that happens. I like see the intention that it's like we want Elizabeth to be this person that you like. She's not annoying. She's not hard to take care of. Like other games where you have a companion.
Yeah.
She's helpful.
Yeah. And, I loved Elizabeth, but there's one thing that really kind of made me upset about her. She was waiting in line at the Baldur's Gate panel when we walked by, and I was like, "Come on, we're gonna have a whole panel about
Yeah,
Bioshock. What are you doing?"
I think between Baldur's Gate, Gearbox, and Felicia Day all deciding to have their panels at the same time as ours,
Wow.
can never forgive any of them.
Yeah. Clearly the most important.
So, okay, more about Bioshock Infinite. We haven't dove into it a whole lot, but like you're all over the place, right? Like you're all over the city. How did you feel though about the final fight in Bioshock Infinite? Was it too hard? Was it too easy? Was it a letdown? I don't know. I just feel like I've heard so many different opinions about the final fight, the final scene in Bioshock Infinite.
For me, I feel like the last fights are probably some of the weakest parts of the game. I think that the build-up is the best part for me. Whenever you go see Comstock at the end, I feel like that would have maybe been the perfect ending for me personally. I didn't need a battle with the Songbird at the end, but I could be in the minority with that one. But
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to just kind of spend a little bit of time as we talk about that, about Songbird, because it kind of just kind of falls into after the final battle, the big reveal of Rapture, and you're going back to where it all started in a sense. And I just loved the whole concept of Songbird because, first of all, when you're kind of exploring Rapture, you see little stuffed animals, and there's lullabies and little things about this massive creature and this creature in the sky that could come from anywhere and do all this. And he's protecting Elizabeth and doing all these crazy things, and he's this monster. And there's just that moment when you're, fighting at the last battle, and then Elizabeth takes you back to Rapture. And at first you're like, where are we? It's underwater, it's trying to kill her, whatever, all those things. And then obviously that one moment where he looks at Elizabeth and his red eye turns green, and it's like, you're safe now, you can take care of yourself. And his mission kind of was complete. And it just kind of added to that one moment of like this monster that you think is just so crazy really was, in a crazy way, probably because he was made that way, to protect Elizabeth and make sure that she was fine. And when she was finally released, he was released of that burden, and you just see that little spark of green. It just kind of hit me because it was like his mission is over and he did it, and he knows that she'll be okay. And then once again, Rapture happened. I'm just like, whoa, what the heck? And once again, it was another thing that like it just happened. Like you could kind of assume maybe there'll be some kind of thing in Rapture, and especially with the tears, and you might get something. But it was in the midst of a battle and with the Songbird moment, and then it just opens up, and there it is. And once again, that's what I just loved about Bioshock Infinite, and really Bioshock as a whole. It's like all about those moments. They just hit you so hard and just stick with you for years and years, and you think about it and you remember when you were sitting in front of that TV and it just happened, and I love it. I loved it so much.
Yeah, you're talking about the moments when you find yourself in Rapture. Once again, I don't know if anyone else does this. Every once in a while, I'll stand up when I'm playing. It's just so intense. You have to stand up.
Oh yeah.
And when you realize you're in Rapture,
It's like, oh,
stand like yeah. And I think that's like Adam says, like it's the moments throughout the series, like it's so many iconic moments that everyone talks about. Like it's the first time you go down into Rapture, the first time you go up to Columbia. It's the end of both games.
yeah, I feel like it's just mystery.
We've gone so far into this panel, we haven't mentioned Sander Cohen, of course, who is I think maybe my favorite of all the games.
Yeah.
Just that whole level there, so memorable. It's just incredible that it's all packed into this one series.
For sure. I was going to talk about, okay, I want to go on the Burial at Sea real quick, because the gameplay and the story are obviously very different, and almost like...
It's incredible.
It's incredible.
It's incredible.
So, in Burial at Sea, you are playing part of it. Part one, you're playing as Booker DeWitt again. and then part 2, you're actually going to play as Elizabeth. So I want to talk specifically, though, about Elizabeth, and then after that I want to talk just a second about politics, and then we'll probably try to move into, not actually politics, but not like, but I want to talk about the
Dangerous
political
water.
meaning of Infinite.
Yeah,
I feel like
Right.
it's further. Okay, playing as Elizabeth, how's it hit you?
I thought the stealth elements of that were really, really awesome. I thought it brought a kind of fear that I didn't have of splicers before, because I knew ammo was limited. I knew that if I hit them and they knew I was hitting them, that it would just stun them and I had to run away and hide. So I feel like it added a new, different feel for me for the entirety of Rapture, because everything was so scarce. You needed to employ these tactics, whereas in Infinite or 1 and 2, it's more open-ended. And even though the open-ended is good, I thought that the stealth was intentional, obviously. Yeah, I just thought it felt very different, but was also very same in a lot of ways. So.
Yeah, I think I want to take a kind of a dive into the end of Infinite with the doors. When you find out about the doors opening up, and I think that people have sometimes dismissed Burial Sea as almost like fan fiction, and this is like just, what could be behind one of those doors. And even if you look at it from that aspect of it, I love that, because I want to know what happened in all these doors, and then you kind of connect that. And I think that was what hit me the most about playing as Elizabeth, and kind of seeing what might be behind one of those doors was that, you compare that to your life, and like I've been in a lot of places, and you think like maybe you can't go through a door and fix exactly what happened or try to go back, but like which door did I go through to kind of put me here today, and which door did I go through that ended up, having me with my first wife and my second wife and hopefully never a third wife, but like there's things like that just I think about quite often, and I think it's from that game that I think of those choices that were made, and I wish they would have made Burial Sea episode 3 and 4 and then put more, other places, and just see what happened to her in all these different worlds and kind of think about that. But I think that hit the hardest for me, and then it connected everything. And I actually think that what happened in Burial at Sea and even the end of Infinite made Bioshock better for me. And just, I don't know, kind of obviously at the end of it, it circles back, and when she hands him that ace in the hole and you kind of realize that you're kind of back where you started, it's brilliant. Yeah.
Agreed. The thing I wanted to say, and if anybody wants to comment on it, you can, but is that obviously Bioshock is, you got a political message there, it's underlying. Bioshock 2, same thing. Bioshock Infinite is more in your face, but I feel like it also talks about some of the things that are happening, like with the nationalism and everything. And I'm not saying positive, negative, whatever. It's not a political statement. I'm just saying it comments on that state. And I feel like it was relevant a little bit in 2013, but when I played it again, in the last month, it seems more relevant than it was then.
Yeah.
For sure. And one way, again, whatever it's a commentary on, however you want to take that, I feel like it definitely, pushed that medium further than other games had at that time, and you realize that way more now.
Yeah.
Cool.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's just it's the same story in a different way. Any ideology taken to its absolute max is probably going to be bad,
right.
like real bad. Obviously, we have some, genetic modifying sea slugs in there that kind of add a different element, but
In the city underwater and stuff,
right.
Okay. Last question or brief discussion before we. I think we're gonna. If there's any questions or comments, we can take those briefly after this one. If not, then we'll maybe keep talking about Bioshock. We don't expect anybody to have necessarily questions, but if you do, I think they said there'd be a mic you could line up behind. Oh, you
Cool.
got it.
Yep.
And we'll just try to make those brief. But are you loot collectors? For other games, I am not a loot collector. I don't need to go see everything. For all the Bioshock games, for whatever reason, I needed to go around every corner, every turn, open every chest possible. What's your approach?
I'm exactly the same.
I'm a complete loot collector. I mean, it started really, I was the guy in Final Fantasy X just dodging lightning for 6 hours straight, like doing all those things. Like, I love searching every corner. And I think sometimes it is to the detriment of games, because like sometimes I feel I break up the pace of what it's supposed to be, because I'm like, I can't miss anything. I got to see everything,
Right.
do all that stuff. And while there's so much joy to be found in it, there is a certain balance that you have to find. And I think unfortunately take it a little too far sometimes. I'm like, I got to just play this game already.
Honestly, I agree with you because that's why I stopped playing The Witcher 3 the
Yeah, I was
first
about
time
to
because
say,
I
that's my
needed,
exact
I needed to
thing.
clear every question mark, and then I was like, I've played this so much.
Yeah. I'm in the starting area, and I've put like 340 hours in the game, I think.
Yeah.
That's good.
Crazy.
I like there's people have done like web comics of like Booker just like scrounging around and like eating like old apples and
Old
like
apples
smoking
out
a whole
of,
pack of
out of the
cigarettes.
garbage. Yeah.
I want to know why
Merlot.
people are putting so much change into the garbage cans. Too.
Yeah, that's,
Yeah,
that's my question. Why is all this
They don't
valuable
need that
stuff
fucking
in the
change like
garbage?
this. Right? It's just,
The purse is always knocked over.
right.
You know, the coins are. Yeah.
All right. Well, I don't see anybody lined up yet, but real briefly then, what do you want for the future of Bioshock? We've got 3 amazing games, a few different DLCs that are also amazing. We know there's another Bioshock coming eventually, not from the same team or, probably many people who are... By the way, there was somebody on Reddit who told me they worked on Infinite and they might be here. Are you here? All right, well, fine.
Show yourself.
They might
Oh,
be
yeah, I
there.
see you back there. Good to see you. Thanks, developer.
Thanks for stopping by. See you later.
But what was I saying?
What do you want to see for the future?
Thank you. What do you want to see
Yeah.
for the future of Bioshock? Real quick.
Yeah, real quick for me. I mean, obviously, there's a chance. What's the next location? Where is it going to be? And I think a lot of people would say space, and I think space would be really cool, either on the moon or Mars or something, some kind of society up in the stars. But I'd like a little twist. Bioshock is always about twists, and I don't know if people are familiar about the Waitomo caves in New Zealand. They're basically like glowworm caves, where you go like whitewater rafting under all these caves, and you look up, and it looks like you're looking up at the night sky, but they're actually just glowworms. So I think it'd be cool to have some kind of crazy city underground that has different caves and different sections with these glowworms above you just looking like space, but you're not really in space, and just being able to explore the different caves and areas and maybe have some people trying to break into this and trying to explore what happened. But I think that could be kind of an interesting twist because people would say space, but this could be maybe a way to give both.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you. I really hope that they do something totally new. No Rapture, no Columbia. The framework is there, and it's kind of interesting because Elizabeth kind of says the framework. There's always a lighthouse. There's always a man. Whatever.
Yeah.
So something new would be awesome. And I think it's not irrational, but I don't think that that's required, right? Like I think that someone else can take this franchise to new heights or depths, depending on how you want to look at it.
Well said.
Cool.
Real quick. If you don't have anything, that's fine.
I don't have anything because I just take whatever they give me.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, really, I mean-
expectations. The more expectations put on it, the more I'll be disappointed with something. So whatever they give me, that's all I want.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool. Real quick, before we go to the questions, I wanted to mention Handsome Phantom is also on Patreon. It's patreon.com/handsomephantom. This isn't a plug for us necessarily.
No, it is. Yeah.
It is a plug for us.
It's a plug.
If you want to hear stuff from us, there's tons of free stuff out there that you can listen to, and everything is free eventually. We don't hide anything behind a paywall. We have a show called the HP Podcast. We also do a show that you don't want to listen to with your kids called HP After Dark. That is an early exclusive for the Patreon. If you're interested, if you're a person who likes Patreon, our highest tier is $5, so $135. Check it out, patreon.com/handsomephantom. No obligation. We just really appreciate you being here. And
Thanks.
Adam does all sorts of stuff too.
Yeah. Do you want to plug his little site?
Well, yeah, I mean,
His little site, IGN. Have you
They're
guys-
doing pretty good.
He has a podcast.
yeah, obviously you can follow all my work. My main work is at IGN, and you can follow me on Twitter at Adam Bankers. That's where I mainly hang out. And I also do have a podcast that I've been running for a long time that kind of helped me get into the industry and all that stuff, called The Gamer's Advocate. That's another one where just me and a couple of my friends back at home just talk about games and all the awesome stuff. But yeah, mostly find me on IGN.com.
Cool. All right, we're going to take some questions, comments. Because we have a few people, try to keep it like 30 seconds a minute. Yeah.
Well, thank you guys so much for teeing this up.
Yeah, thank
you guys
you.
talked about the politics of it, but I was curious what your thoughts of like the philosophy, right? So if you look at like Andrew Ryan, that's a rearrangement of Ayn Rand, right? So Bioshock 1 taking radical self-reliance to its ultimate conclusion, and then Bioshock 2 turning that on its head and taking radical collectivism to its most extreme. So my question for you would be like, what do you think is the philosophy in Infinite that is being taken to its most extreme? And also, if y'all haven't read like Atlas Shrugged, if you want to deepen your appreciation of Bioshock, I recommend that you do.
Right.
You touched on the extremes. You want to?
Right. I mean, it's interesting. I think that the in your face theme is the nationalism theme, right? You see all the American flag stuff. You see the three founders with the key and all of that. But I honestly don't know if I'm smart enough to go into the aspects of like the multiple worlds, and are you the person that are you destined to be one thing, or is one choice going to completely take your life in a different direction?
And I mean, I think that is what we see with Infinite, is that there is one kind of thing that leads to all those different.
It's honestly a really sad game at the end, because Booker can't change who he is. Like he has to die basically. Like no matter what, there's always a Comstock. And so I don't know. That's kind of a very bleak way to think. Like, well, if you suck, you're always going to suck. So sorry, but no. No, but I think that on the other end, there is the Booker that wants to be a more heroic, better person that we can strive for. So
Cool.
Yeah, but I also think it's hopeful too, because I think it actually is trying to open our eyes to show us that we're all connected, and that like you have these extremes going both ways, but at the end of the day, we are all in this together, and that doesn't work that way.
Right. Cool. I'm gonna move on since
Hello, I'm from Boston University, so they paid me to come here and ask about Ayn Rand.
Nice.
So,
Just so you know, we're like a couple of us may have masters, but we're way underqualified to ask any real.
promise, you won't be quizzed. So, at 30,000 feet, Bioshock, the franchise, looks like, if you read the summaries of each game, you could probably pass it for like a stoned philosophy undergrad's thought experiment. Each of these, or both, rather, I should say, of these fictional cities, Rapture and Columbia, are built on some radical thought experiment. In Rapture, it's on Ayn Rand's objectivism, this like laissez-faire economics. The worker should maximize profit and minimize interference by government boss, what have you. While at Columbia, we would say nationalism.
Yeah.
My question is, I mean, they pretty much chew Ayn Rand up and spit her out by the end of the second game. So I think it's unlikely that another Bioshock game would return and, to beat a dead horse. But what do you think would be the next timely city? What would it be taking to the extreme? Thank you.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it depends on, I mean, this is a cop-out, but it's also the truth. I think it depends on who works on it, right? Because you have so many different ideologies.
Very good.
You have so many different ideologies that are, in developers and in all of us, that it could go any different way. But I think it'd be, I think I agree that you're going to move away from those ideas that we've seen before, but there's still going to be a giant political undercurrent. And like I said, I don't know if that's a cop-out, but it's the right answer I have.
I think I would like to see, I mean, obviously those games are very political, but I would like to see other social issues or things tackled, like a city that is so ingrained in social media or something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, Black Mirror has kind of covered a lot of those things, but I like the idea of it not necessarily being a political ideology, but different thought experiment as
And
well.
even if it is political, like, I mean, I would love to even see like the USSR, early Russia,
communism,
stuff like that. Yeah. I feel like that would be some interesting ideas. But
All right, let's move on.
Hey guys.
Bad Bit Games right here.
Hey, what's up, Adam? What's going on, man?
Hey, buddy.
You're right. So, just like everybody here, one of my, I would say, most monumental games is Bioshock, the original one, for introducing me as a teenager, guys.
yeah.
Feel old yet?
Yeah. Yeah.
Real old.
Every day.
Yeah.
To games being more than just a shooty bang bang experience, they could be something a whole lot more.
Right.
And that opening sequence, possibly one of the best opening sequences of just anything. Like having that awesome speech, you see this beautiful underwater city, and then immediately it's not what it seems, right?
Yep.
Like you see these shadowy figures run across, it's creeping you out, it's creeping me out. My question for you guys is, I remember playing this game for 6 hours straight when I originally played it, and being absolutely terrified at certain parts because they were able to nail down, though you were so powerful, feeling so scared as well. So what were some moments that you guys had that you felt helpless, hopeless,
Yeah.
scared?
In real life or in the game? This could get real deep.
Yeah, I was gonna say we don't have quite enough time for that.
In the game of Bioshock. Yes, yeah.
No. So there's one encounter in Bioshock 1. You go into a certain room and it triggers a set of events that triggers certain splicers throughout the rest of the game, and they're completely silent for the rest of the game. Some of them in Arcadia.
In Arcadia, yeah.
yeah.
This is with Cohen, yeah.
Yeah. And I feel like that is terrifying because typically it's also terrifying to hear someone talking crazy around the corner, and it's happened to everyone that's played Bioshock because it's
You never know where the sound of the voices are.
really,
Yeah.
but also it's terrifying when you don't hear them and they're running at you because you've been used to it now.
Because they're on the
So-
damn ceiling.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
It's when they're on the
Yeah.
ceiling. I'm just
Yeah.
going to answer that. The first time you realize that
Phil
it's
does
not
not.
just one dimensional, you have
No
to
ceiling.
look
No
everywhere.
ceiling for Phil.
And that's what it is. Yeah. It's
All
terrifying.
right, let's move on.
Yep.
I think probably one last question here. Yeah,
Oh
one.
yeah, we could be quick.
We're gonna go for both, but he's gonna kill me if I don't get off the stage. He's gonna plasmid me or something. Go.
So, Bioshock 1 started its life as a spiritual successor to System Shock 2.
Right, of
And I
course.
kind of want to conduct a survey of you guys as well as the whole room, really. Like, how many folks here actually like played through System Shock 2 after playing Bioshock?
After
A few people?
Yeah, it was after, not before. Yeah.
Not all of it. I played
Well,
I really
like before
wanted to.
too. Like, what are your thoughts on System Shock 2?
As far as, well, I mean, that's a long conversation.
Well,
what?
Yeah, like I don't know. I feel like they set amazing framework as far as once again, like we've said, making a shooting game have story driven. I mean, they did audio logs in System Shock as well, and I feel like that System Shock is very, very influenced, obviously, or Bioshock is influenced by System Shock, and that's like completely apparent just by playing it. And so, I feel like it just made sense to keep going with that. But between the audio
Bioshock
logs,
almost didn't get made anyway, but without System Shock, there is no Bioshock.
Never would.
Right.
That's the only
Right.
reason they were even able to keep going on this game.
Right.
This should have been canceled long before it ever saw light.
I'd love to see a remake. I love System Shock 2. I don't think I understood it quite as much because I didn't play it. I'm sorry, I don't think it lended itself quite as much to Bioshock for me because I played it after the fact, so I was already kind of looking for those influences. But I would love to see a remake, and I think some of the things in it are dated enough that it needs to be redone. Yeah.
Cool.
You guys haven't played that.
Well, we got-
Cool.
we all-
Last
I just wanna get
question
him real quick.
that we're not actually asking because we're
Yeah.
over time.
5 seconds.
This is a big ask. Okay, so certain games like Resident Evil, you have the Nemesis saying stars, which will strike fear into you, and you have the liquor sound. Metal Gear, you have the damn exclamation noise. Of all the games, what noises from the game strike the most fear?
Songbird.
Yeah.
Songbird, for sure.
Yeah.
Or the big,
I really-
the big groan.
Oh,
you
man.
hear down the hall.
Yeah.
Stomping.
Yeah, the Big Daddy.
Sounds like me in the morning.
I also feel like the little bell of the turret when you're like turned around and you hear it aim at you, but you're like, okay, you like got to get the the electro bolt out, but yeah.
Cool. Hey, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, one thing that terrified me was a lack of sound when Elizabeth's head doesn't make it through, and it just kind of, but that terrified me.
And on that happy, positive note, we'll end it. Thank you so much. I will
Thank
send.
you.
I was going to do it at the end. Give me like a couple days. I'll send out things to the people who won, ask you for your platform preference, and send you a game. I apologize. I was going to do it right now, but of course we got too into Bioshock to do that. Go ahead by like Monday, unfollow us if you don't want to follow us, and we'll have the code sent out by then. Thank you.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you.